Welcome to the channel. This is the Spiritual Samurai Scribe. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about why abusers have to test the waters and check your empathy levels. When you encounter someone who's abusive, you have to be aware that when you encounter an abusive person, they're looking for a certain type of person. They're looking for this intended target. You see, they're very intentional with who they're looking for. And I'm going to tell you right now, there's two main things that they're going to be looking for when they're meeting people. And the first thing is they need to know if you're empathetic, and they need to measure the levels of it. Your empathy levels is important. The higher, the better, right? Because in their minds, they think that you having empathy and compassion makes you an easy target and makes you, in their minds, they think that, oh yeah, that means you're stupid because you don't know enough about the world to the fact that you care so much, that you're so caring. They think that you haven't been through anything that would harden your heart. And I just want to add this part too. Having empathy does not make you stupid or gullible. There's people that have been through the fire. And they have learned a lot of lessons. And just because you go through certain situations that were painful doesn't mean that you're going to harden your heart. But in this society, in this broken society that we live in the divided states mainly, a lot of people have this thing where they think that you having a cheerful spirit, you being vibrant, radiant, looking youthful, they associate that with being stupid. And that is so sad to me, because that's the reason why the divided states is so bleak. That's the reason why some people, they leave the country and they go to other countries, because the people are more cheerful, they're nicer, they're more humble. You don't think they go through things? They go through a lot. There's a lot of pain in the world. There's poverty. There's all types of suffering. There's heartbreak. There's broken, I want to say broken families, but it's here and there. But mainly, there is some level of pain. There's also oppression in different parts of the world. But yet and still, you're going to see people that they still know how to be happy in one way or another because they understand the importance of unity and community. Community, and family. They stick together for the most part, or even if it's not family, they understand the beauty of kinship and spirituality that brings people together. They understand things that actually matter, things that the divided states does not understand. They don't understand that connection with another person with no agendas. They don't understand what it's like to have connections with people without having an agenda and being able to just love each other and be there for each other. They don't get that. So that's why in the divided states, they have such a disgusting mentality when it comes to people. And that's why they take advantage of people that are giving, that are good to them, that are hospitable. And then they got the nerve to say, ain't no such thing as a good man or woman. Maybe not in the divided states is manufacturing highly narcissistic personalities out here because of the garbage that they promote and glorify, creating this illusion that you have to be a narcissist to be successful, quote unquote, which is not true. It's just that the society thrives off of toxicity and corruption, because it is corrupt. It's been corrupted since the inception, and we know that. So this society, man, I'm telling you, that's why they think that good people, right? They think good people are easy targets, that we're stupid, that we're this. No. That's why, like I said, it's just the fact that good people are not constantly thinking about how to plot against the next man. Good people are not thinking about, what I'm going to do 10 steps ahead. They're not thinking like a psychopath, basically. They're not thinking about, you know what I mean? And I'm not saying that you should or you shouldn't. you should be aware of the type of society that you live in and the type of people that you're surrounded by. Always be aware, just because you gotta also understand that not everybody has a good heart like you do. Not many people do. But also understand that having a good heart does not make you stupid. Having a good heart does not make you gullible or anything like that. But that's what they think, because of how vibrant you are and how much good energy you bring into the atmosphere. And I know, because I myself, people have mistaken my age plenty of times, or they just assume that, I don't know. I don't care what they think at the end of the day, because I know who I am and I have protected myself very well. And I know a shady character when I see one. I know the profile of an abuser, and I make so many videos about this because I'm just sharing this knowledge with you guys, because there's a lot of amazing people out there that don't fully understand these concepts, and they get caught up with these creatures. And I don't want that to happen. And I also want to help people that are going through healing from the pain of betrayal and chronic heartbreak from these type of people, So with that being said, the empathy is the one thing that they look for, in their target. They're looking for somebody with empathy. And see, what they don't understand is that empathy does not mean you're dumb. This is why, if you're a person that has high levels of empathy and compassion, and you just have all these wonderful traits, you have to really educate yourself and fill your mind with knowledge about human nature, dark psychology. You have to really get acquainted with these type of personalities so that you can detect it. Because you might be thinking, well, I'm not thinking about doing this. You're not learning dark psychology to do it on somebody. You're learning it to protect yourself so that you can detect it when it's being done to you. But one of the best teachers is experience. Now, you don't want to necessarily learn in that way. You don't want to learn the hard way. But we all have some type of experience that can take us back to our traumas, right? But once we heal from our traumas, we can learn these dark psychology tactics and be able to, wow, so he literally did that to me. Yes, grooming is a big one too. And if you have some childhood traumas, depending on what you've been through, probably been through a lot, I'm telling you, make sure you're ready to learn about this stuff, because it can be intense if you're not at least healed enough to be able to revisit these concepts so that you can be familiar with it, But essentially, we're doing this to protect ourselves. That's really the main goal. So you look at that and you're like, wow. So they always looked at us as a target. We were always seen as a target. And it goes back to when people always say, when you're chosen, you're basically targeted since birth. Now it makes all of that stuff just starts to click. It starts to add together. And now you understand completely, from piece by piece, all the different tactics and the way that they think when they see you, right? And one of the biggest things that they look for, from what I've seen and what I've learned, is empathy levels. They have to check your empathy levels. And another reason why they have to do that is because, they have to, when they come into your life, right? Remember, I made a video called The Empathy Trap. That's one of the big reasons why, because they're looking not only to capture you, but they want to trap you and keep you with them. See, it's not just they can get you, they want to keep you. They want to lock you in with them. And the only way that they know that you will be locked in with them is if you have high levels of empathy. And also, one big thing that they don't, I guess this is the whole point of them testing the waters, because I'm going to get into that, because they check your empathy levels, and also they test the waters to see how much you know, how aware you are about this stuff, because they do understand, even though they think that all it takes is us having empathy to deceive us, they do understand at this point, especially with all this information going out, they do understand that, they have to see how much we know and how aware we are. But the thing is, they are in for a surprise when they find out how knowledgeable some of us are about this stuff, and the fact that we're not as dumb as they thought we were, or naive, right? Because if you have a youthful face, they're going to assume that you don't know this stuff. They don't, because we don't look like what we've been through. These people have no idea the type of childhood that we had. So when they see us, they just see a pretty, vibrant young lady. Little do they know, she's got hella content talking about these creatures, you know, talking about these predators. So they need to see if you have high levels of empathy, and also to see how much you know and how much awareness you have of your own value and awareness of the people around you, right? That's what they look for, you know. And so high levels of empathy are necessary to them. And of course, with the awareness thing, this is necessary to them because this is what's gonna keep you locked in with them, because now they can do what they do. They can groom you, they can do all that stuff. And if you're unfamiliar with these things, then you're gonna fall prey to this. Whether you don't have a history of going through traumatic experiences, or if you do, you might not you probably have not healed from it, and you're probably not aware that this pattern is taking place in your life, this generational pattern that is causing you to run into people that are very similar to your past abusers, all the way down from childhood. You know, that's why it's very important for us to be self-aware and to know ourselves and understand the experiences that we had since the day we were born, because you're going to see a pattern with the people that you date and how much they have in common with certain people from your childhood, be it good or bad. But of course, in this case, it's not really so good, is it? But high levels of empathy and low levels of awareness is what they thrive in, because now they know that all the little they know that the empathy trap will work. They know they can trap you by a sob story. They can trap you with their little past traumas, their childhood traumas, and sometimes their childhood traumas could actually be legit. It could be true. They could have been through these things, you know, but I would not be surprised if they lied about it just so that they can trap you in a relationship with them. See? Because when you think about a psychopathic person, or if you think about just an abusive person, narcissistic person in general, they wear a facade, they wear a mask. So I would not be surprised if they would go as far as to lie about, you know, their childhood traumas. Nonetheless, for the most part, I would say that life has shaped them in some way. So I would like to say that there has to be something that happened to this person that made them that way. And I'm not excusing it, but it's very easy to believe what they say, whether it's true or false. You know, if they tell you about if they tell you about their childhood traumas, I'm inclined to believe that most likely it's true, because in some ways it does kind of align with the type of personality that they have and the type of behavioral patterns that they're displaying to you. And if you know a lot of psychology, you're going to understand, and you're going to be able to tell, okay, you're telling the truth, because now I see why you do X, Y, and Z, because it's a response to that, you know. So that's how another way you could verify, like, yeah, I can see that you are not lying about the childhood traumas. However, even if they're telling the truth about these things, even if they're being honest and you know, vulnerable with you about all of their pain from childhood and how it shaped them to how they are today, they love using that story, not because they want to form a connection, a genuine connection with you that has mutual love and respect. That's not why. That's what they want you to believe. They're doing that so that they can solidify the trauma bond. And like I said in another video, the trauma bond is spiritual bondage, and they use your empathy combined to make that, you know, pretty much permanent. Because as long as you know all about their pain, all about their childhood, and it was so sad and so, you know, it brings a tear to your eyes, you know, and you just like, Every time you think about leaving this person, even if they're abusing you, you can't even stomach it. You can't even imagine leaving them behind, because every time you do, you see the inner child in them. You see that little boy or that little girl that's crying because no one loved them. You know, they were abandoned, they were abused and all this stuff. That image appears in your mind every time you think about leaving this person, even if they're abusing you. And that is how they that's how they groom you too. That's the way they groom you, to see the humanity in them, because they know that that's what your empathy would do, even if they don't deserve it. You see, highly empathetic people they have a heart for everybody, you know? They see the humanity in all types of people. But one of the most fucked up things that happens is that when you start to feel bad for your abuser, when you start to cry for your abuser, that is how they create Stockholm Syndrome. And people don't understand how psychologically damaging that is. Stockholm Syndrome literally comes from you developing this connection, a soul tie, a toxic one, with your own abuser. And like I said, if you already been through this in childhood, this program has already been installed into you from the narcissistic parent, whether whatever caregiver you had, you know, whoever was in charge of taking care of you, or whoever was in your life, you know, growing up. Yes, they might have instilled that program into you. So by the time you get older, you're drawn to people, certain people, and then you find out it's the same thing playing over and over again. You see? So in whatever way that comes in, you know, they're always looking for that, you know, because again, they know how empathy operates in someone that actually has it, because not everybody has it. Most people are like, man, fuck it. But you know, when you're not awakened to what's going on, because you could still have empathy, but you have to have discernment as well. You know, it goes back to that scripture that says you have to be wise as serpents, innocent as doves, which means that you can be empathetic, but you have to practice selective empathy. You cannot empathize with every single person on this planet, because they will take advantage of that. The type of world that we live in, especially this divided states society, the way that it's been created since the inception of this place, empathy is always viewed as a weakness, even though it's actually one of the most beautiful traits that unites people together. But no, instead, because of all of this programming that's going on, it's seen as a weakness. And this type of society, it thrives off of corruption. And in order for you to rise, you have to be a corrupted person, which is fucked up, because that is not true. But they made it true by creating a system that facilitates that type of thing, you know? And that's why you have to be set apart from it, because that's not the way. That is not the way of God. That's not the way of higher consciousness, or whatever you want to call it, right? That's just not the way. All right? So knowledge, again, be wise as serpents, innocent as doves. You got to know how to think like an abuser, like a predator. You got to know how to think like these deceptive, manipulative people. You got to know dark psychology, not to practice it, but to detect it, so that you can protect yourself and those you love. But your empathy remains intact. Your empathy is something that needs to be preserved in this cold, dark world, you know? And so, again, they need to test the waters to see how much you know and how much you're willing to put up with. So that's why a lot of them, they do these shit tests. And normally when you encounter these people, they give you about 2 weeks, maybe 1 or 2 weeks. And if you pass the test of being the perfect victim, the perfect target, you know, if you pass the test of high empathy and no awareness, no knowledge of the serpent's knowledge, yeah, that is where they're gonna go in for the kill. That's where the love bombing intensifies, because now they want to lock you down. They're like, okay, this person, yeah, that's exactly what they're looking for. And then they sink their claws into you, and then, you know, next thing you know, you're being love bombed, and then all of a sudden you already know where that leads to. Now you're trapped in this cycle, and you don't know what the hell's going on until you wake up, you know. But that's what they do. That's what they do. So during those first 2 weeks, they shit test you as well to see how much you're willing to put up with. And it could be small stuff, you know. They want to see what you're willing to do for them, if you're willing to do this for them, willing to do things that go outside of your character, you know. Or they want to see if they can corrupt you in some way. They want to see if they can one big one, they want to see if they can, let's say you're a person that is very selective with who you sleep with, you know. You're not quick to sleep with somebody that you just met. They want to break those barriers. They want to break those barriers, you know. They want to break through. That's a big one too. One of the biggest shit tests that they will do is they want to see if they can break through your boundaries. Big one. Whatever boundaries you have when you're dating someone, they will see if they can run all over it. And if they can, they're going to see you as somebody that they can just walk all over. And it starts with a little bit of disrespect. They might say something disrespectful, and then they'll play it off like it's a joke. Don't fall for it. Please don't. Because you might think, oh, it's not a big deal. No. When you first meet someone, they should not even be thinking about disrespecting you in any way. Like, they want to test and see how much they were able to infiltrate into you, right? Into your life. Because then they'll see, okay, this person doesn't see me as a stranger if I'm able to joke like this with them, you know. But don't let it happen. Don't let it happen, you know. Or another shit test that they'll do is, this is important too. This is important for the people that, when it comes to intimacy, right? This is a huge one, because they like to use intimacy to manipulate you. That is how they keep you stuck as well, because it is, especially if, you know, because, you know, intimacy is very powerful. So that's a reason why intimacy is considered a form of consummating a marriage, because intimacy has the power to bring two people together. And then you know, certain chemicals are released in the woman's, especially the woman's brain, where she feels like she wants to be with this man, you know. Men don't really get that. But anyway, especially not an abusive man, they don't give a shit about connecting with you. I will say this. So they want to see if they can be intimate with you just like that as soon as possible. Now, I'm not saying that every man that does that is abusive. They could just be selfish as hell. You know, they could just be super horny or whatever. But what I'm saying is that when you look at all these factors put together, right? Intimacy is a huge one. And I have to emphasize that. And like I said, don't misunderstand it. There's nothing wrong with intimacy. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just you need to be very mindful of how, of when you decide to be intimate with a person. You cannot be intimate with someone you just met. That's just not wise. You have to exercise discipline and restraint, because you need to make sure that you know what the fuck you're dealing with. Because the moment you lay down with this person and then you don't even know who they are like that, you just know the facade, but you don't really know the soul. You don't know what type of, they could have all types of darkness in them. And the moment that you become intimate with them, now you're intertwined with that. And now you become like, in a way, like your mind is enslaved to them. You're becoming chained spiritually to them, because sex is like, intimacy is a very deep thing. But this society would try to make it seem like it's just a sport. It's just an activity. No, intimacy is a serious thing, very profound. It has profound lasting effects, especially if you're someone with high levels of empathy. All right, maybe you're somebody that you're detached. I don't know what's going on, but if you're a person with high levels of empathy and you love deeply, you're passionate, I would recommend that you really need to practice restraint and self-control. Do not be quick to do not be so quick to be intimate. If you show restraint, because you're not backing down on your values, your boundaries, they're gonna discard you. They're gonna just say, fuck it, I can't, and it's a reason why they discard you within 1 to 2 weeks of meeting them. Consider that a blessing in disguise. Seriously. Don't even question it. Because if a person is that upset that they weren't able to, lock you down, not to love you, but to trap you within 1 to 2 weeks, that's when they figure that you know too much. Even if you have high levels of empathy, you probably know too much. You have too many boundaries, too many standards, reasonable standards, and you have a healthy self-esteem. You're confident. You got a lot going for yourself. This is why investing into yourself is so important, because you're able to thrive by yourself. You don't need somebody to make your day. You don't need somebody to make you feel alive. You know how to make yourself alive just with your own energy, your own essence, And when you're that kind of person that can do that, when you meeting new people, you can detect these things. And you're like, I was doing fine without you, so that way you don't want to be codependent when you're dating. Oh no. Don't even date if you have that issue, because there is an underlying psychological reason why you're codependent. You feel like you need somebody. You need somebody to love you, to validate you. Be careful with that, because there's a lot of people out here that are abusive, and they will capitalize off of that. So please invest into yourself. Take care of yourself, because you're the only person that can do that. And you're the one who does it best. So, with all that being said, I thank you so much for listening. I appreciate every last one of you. Much love to everyone.